To show that good writing really matters and that bad writing really stinks, I have this example for you. This is a piece of signage from the Napier Aquarium in New Zealand. And we can do this little exercise. I think this will be kind of fun, where you can test yourself. Just read through this signage piece. This is from the aquarium. It describes an alligator, and you can pause the video wherever you like just to see if you can spot mistakes. And look for mistakes of all kinds. So you can look for punctuation errors, spelling errors, whatever you can find. Okay, so just pause the video wherever you like and see if you can spot mistakes. And then after that, we will go through it, and I'll point out as many mistakes as I could find. Now, I should be a little bit generous in the sense that even though this is from the Napier Aquarium, pretty much all of this is copied word for word from an online source. And I'm not sure actually if it's okay to do that in this case. I'm not going to accuse them of plagiarism, but it does strike me as perhaps somewhat problematic. And it also raises this question whether, who's responsible for the mistakes, because some of them have been introduced after the copying and some are in the original text. So, just mistakes upon mistakes, which also creates a bit of a problem here because people keep telling me in New Zealand that their fellow countrymen and countrywomen, I suppose, are terrible spellers and terrible writers. And, I'm not sure what to think now because who's responsible for these mistakes? Okay, so let's go through this now, and we'll start with the title. First of all, there is some really random capitalization in these passages. So in this case, we have alligator is not capitalized here, but it is capitalized there. And then earth is capitalized, which is kind of bizarre. We have lakes and marshes are capitalized. It's just all over the place. Then we have the Latin name, and you might not have actually looked at this closely, but if you know the little kid thing, right, with Mississippi, where it's Mississippi, and you're supposed to remember that, or somebody asks you, do you know how to spell Mississippi? Do you know how to spell it? And then you're supposed to say IT, right, because the answer is it. Do you know how to spell it? But anyways, the point is that there's a P missing here, and you would know that from that little saying. Then we get to this, Southern States, US of A. It's a bit funny because there's already the word states in here, of course. So Southern States, United States of America. That's not a terrible problem, but just something to note. Then we have this funny line here, females average 2.5 meters to 3.0 meters. That doesn't strike me as an average, that strikes me as a range, actually, which is kind of bizarre. And then we have rivers systems. Should be just river systems, of course. And then we'll go down a little bit further here. There's this odd kind of space over here. I'm not sure why that is there. Let's see here. So we've talked about the random capitalization. Then the next sentence here, we read, one American alligator reached a length of 5.84 meters and 1,000 kilograms, which sounds funny because it sounds like this is a length of 1,000 kilograms, which made it not only the largest alligator ever recorded, but almost the largest crocodilians on record. I'm not sure why this is in the plural, but there you go. Often confused with various crocodile species, the American alligator can be identified by its rounded snout. That should be, of course, without the apostrophe. And there's another its like that further on. And by the fact that when the jaws are closed, none of the lower teeth are visible. Typically found in freshwater swamps and marshes, their eyes and snout are positioned on the tops of their heads. I'm not sure if their snout is really on the top, but okay. Now, notice that this is a dangling modifier, this opening bit here, because the implication is that their eyes and snout are typically found in freshwater swamps and marshes. Not the rest of them. Although I suppose that if that's all that you're seeing, then maybe there's some truth to that. Enabling them to breathe and watch for prey while the rest of the body is submerged. Technically, you don't need a comma here because this last information is kind of crucial to what came before. It's basically essential information. So here we have our second it's, the wrong it's. And this is a rather cumbersome sentence. It's copied word for word, by the way. So it says here, while the American alligator is notorious for its potential dangers to humans, attacks are very rare. Potential, of course, is rather redundant because danger is always, somewhat potential. And you could just simply say, while the American alligator is dangerous. Right? Dangerous. Or is dangerous to humans. Maybe you want to keep this bit in. And that would be a lot quicker. All right, so they do some weird things in terms of courting, including, they have some complex body postures, whatever that means. And that's always the trouble with sort of just borrowing this information. There's no interrogation of what this actually means. It's just one fact after another. And somehow we're supposed to make sense of this and find something interesting in here. We have some references to their eggs. Okay, let's jump down a little bit here. And then we have this description of how these hatchlings graduate, kind of a weird word. And then it says they take fish, frogs, and snakes. I'm sure they do much more than take fish, frogs, and snakes. So kind of a weird word choice here. And then we end with this weird kind of extra colon here. It's not really necessary because our introduction should just merge with the list that follows. Lots of weird things. Oh, I didn't even notice the semicolon here. Alligators are found in the southeast of the United States of America in the states of. So we have a semicolon that just functions as a longer pause, apparently. This is a terrible piece of writing. I'm thinking about sending the aquarium a note, perhaps. But it is something that should concern us, because if people don't learn to write properly, then we end up with this kind of garbage. And most people don't even notice it because they're just looking for the information, and they're not looking for stylish and effective writing. But if you are trained to write effectively, then you might be pained by seeing this, and you might also think about whether we can tell a more attractive story, whether we can tie the facts together somehow, and make this an interesting piece of signage that's not riddled with mistakes.